Hello, I'm Becca Flatty, and today I'm going to show you how to make a really cute gelato or ice cream pattern in Procreate using the diamond method. I'm going to be using my pattern maker canvas. This one is from the Volume 2 Boho Brights collection, and this one is a spotty canvas and it has this gorgeous seamless texture overlay on there. If you don't have this one, don't panic, you can still follow along. You'll just need to make for yourself a layer which has a diamond on it like this. And you can really easily do that by just, drawing a diamond in like this to roughly the middle. And as long as you're going off the edges of the canvas, you're good to go. The benefit of having it precise, like this one, is that you get to see everything lining up as a second visual to make sure that it's all snapping into place properly, but the other method will work just as well. So the pattern maker canvas comes with all these layers and groups set up ready to work in, and the overlay textures, and this one has background textures too. So we're going to start working in our sketch layer on the draw here first layer, and I'm going to be using this gelato stamp brush here, which you can find for free over in my Freebie Library on my website. You can use your own colours, or if you want to download this palette that I'm going to be using, you can also find that in the Freebie Library too. So let's start stamping some of these up. What size brush do we have here? Got mine at 25%, so let's put some of these around here. Just kind of stamping these anywhere for now, and before I commit to merging it down onto the same layer as the diamond, I am gonna mess around with the rotation on some of the freehand and making sure I just grab one at a time. I'm going to turn snapping and magnetics off, and I'm going to mess around with the rotation of some of these. And also the spacing. I think we've got that one going that way, and then we could have this one a bit more like that. And then these two are a bit too close together at the moment. Let's have this one sort of upside downish. Oops. Try that one. Maybe there. Let's just go with this and see how this works out. So let's merge that down with our diamond now. So that's on the same layer. And now, because we've got pixels going all the way to the edge, we can duplicate this and we can transform and grab the whole layer and move it by exact amounts. So I'm going to drag it over here to the left, and what you want to look out for is these orange lines so that you know you're snapping exactly into the corners. And then we can merge those top 4 layers together, so then we've got these on one layer, and then above we've got the outside. And that's not looking too bad. What we want to do is fill this area here, the corners. So to work in the corners, what we do is duplicate both of these layers and drag them halfway out to the side. So that's the top one done, and then the bottom one will duplicate. I'll drag that one out to the sides, making sure that you've got your orange lines there where you're snapping. And then you'll see that our diamond has now become an X. So I think there's room for one more ice cream cone in there, so let's add a layer above. Still got that brush, we'll stamp one in there, turn snapping off so we can move it around. I think probably that way, and we'll probably just leave that there, merge it down. I'm going to delete this top layer now because we've changed stuff on the bottom layer, and let's put this back in its original position with snapping and magnetics on. And then we can have a tidy up and move things around now that that's in its place. And I can see here, that's my first clue that something isn't right. So what I'm going to do is, when I did put my X back into diamond, so let's undo. So let's put this back more carefully this time. That's better. That's why I like to have these super precise lines, because they'll help you spot exactly when you've gone wrong. So let's put this into those corners, and that's snapping nicely now. If you want a more in-depth tutorial on how this diamond method works, I've got a video for that which I'll link to in the description. So that's now our tile mostly built out. I think some of these could do with a bit of fine-tuning. For example, I think these two, they look too similar and too at the same angle. So let's rotate this one. Make sure I'm on the right layer. And we'll turn snapping and magnetics off now, and let's do a bit of fine-tuning of this pattern. So maybe this one could go that sort of way. That one we could move around. Maybe upside down. And then this one here we could move. Maybe shuffle this one over a bit more. And then perhaps move this one just up there a little. So what I'm going to do now, because I've made changes in this middle section, I'm going to delete the top one, and we'll perform that offset again with snapping and magnetics on. The hardest bit of the pattern is getting these all in the right place, so take your time in this stage if you need to. It's worth spending the extra time in this section to get everything all looking nicely and balanced. I'm thinking, I'm not sure if I like those that way, but maybe they're okay. Maybe if I rotate this one just a bit more. And if we rotate that just enough to make it not look too similar to that one. And then I think I'm going to move this one across. Move this up. There we go. Right, last time, let's delete this and then put everything into place around the edges, and then once it's done, we know that we can just enjoy drawing knowing that everything is already in the right place because we made our sketch first. So to check that this is looking good in a zoomed out scale, I'm going to swipe down with 3 fingers. I'm going to copy all, come up here, swipe down again, and I'm going to paste. And I'm going to drag this up to halfway till we've got those orange lines there. And I'm going to drag it across to there. And there you can see that in a zoomed out state, and I think that is going to look pretty good. Everything's looking nicely spaced out there. So we can get rid of that. I think one last thing to add is some stars. So I'm going to grab this star brush, which again you can find in the Freebie Library. And I'll add, actually I don't need to add a layer, I can just work on the layer that we're on. And I'm just going to add a few of these stars in here. Maybe one there, and yeah, I think we can have one there on the edge. Let's see how that looks. I think all I might do is just rotate this one so it fills the space at that kind of angle. But maybe the other way around? No. There we go. And because that isn't going to affect the position of anything else I draw, I'm going to leave that where it is and not worry about filling the edge with it. So we are now ready to move on to our pattern layer. So I can reduce the opacity on these outside ones, and let's turn on our pattern layer, pattern group, and we'll start working on this layer 1 here. So first off, I'm going to draw in the cones with this brown colour, and I'm going to use the tracing crayon from my Pattern Maker canvas brush set. So let's just draw these in. You don't have to worry about sticking too closely to the lines on this one. That's the very reason that we use these stamp brushes as a guide for our sketch layer, and then when we draw them on our pattern layer, we can make each one slightly unique. And even though this one is going off the edge and we'll have to draw this in our extra layer, I can still draw the cone on this layer because that one doesn't go off the edges. But when it comes to drawing the ice cream bit, we'll have to do that in our extra group. So we'll fill all these in. And let's move the sketch group on top and bring down the opacity on that one. And actually, we could probably just hide the ones around the outside because we know we don't need to draw those. So next I'm going to draw the underneath bit of ice cream, like the dripped bit. So grab this colour here and I'm just going to fill that bit in. And again on this one, because this bit isn't going off the edge, I can draw it in on there too. And we can fill those in. Then on a layer above, we'll draw in the big ice cream cones, ice cream scoops. And because these are going to be the same colour, it'll be difficult to spot where we're going. So I'm going to do them in a different colour and then I'll fill them afterwards with the cream colour. So we'll just draw these in orange for now so that we can see what we're doing. So all of those done, so we'll fill those in and we can alpha lock them, grab that creamy colour and fill those in. And then last of all, I'm going to do the stars and I'll draw those in yellow and then probably change the colours up on a clipping mask. And that is all of our shapes done now. Now, as you probably know, when you draw with a textured edged brush like this, when you fill shapes, you get little hairline gaps in there. So, oops, I just drew a bit of yellow on that there. Let's undo that. Let's change the background colour to something dark. And then, as you can see here, we've got all these gaps. I figured out a way to fill these in Procreate without having to trace over all the layers. Normally what you'd have to do would be to draw around like that to fill all those gaps in. Or you can fill them in Photoshop, which is what I normally do. But I figured out a way to fill these in Procreate without having to trace around them. So we're going to duplicate this layer, and although you can see that we could duplicate it again and that actually helps, but when we do that we lose the nice soft edge on the brush. All these details get lost as well, so we don't want to rely on that as a way of knocking out these gaps. We're going to duplicate this layer, so we're going to come up to our adjustments and we're going to tap on Gaussian blur, and let's just put a blur of 5% on this, and then I'm going to hide this layer so that we can see where those lines are that we need to fill in. So on this hidden layer, which has our Gaussian blur on it, I'm going to tap on select and I'm on automatic. I'm going to select the white space on this layer. So what we want to do is adjust this until we've got an area selected that comes out past the edges of what we need to fill in, but doesn't go like so much that we're filling the whole thing. So we want to come out to just past those. Then we can invert the selection. So now we've got this area inside which covers all those gaps, but it also doesn't interfere with our nice edges here. And then we can add a layer, and then with the colour that we want it to be, if we tap on fill layer, that's filled all of those in for us. We can get rid of this blurred layer and we can merge that layer down, and then that has filled all of those gaps on that layer, and we didn't have to go and trace around them, and we've still got our nice edges of the brush that we want to keep. So I'll show you that again on the Let's Do These ice cream cones. So let's unalpha lock that. So let's duplicate this layer, and then we're going to come up here to our adjustments, and we're going to go on Gaussian blur and just set it to 5%. Then we can hide this layer, the one that we've put the Gaussian blur on, so we can see these lines that we need to get rid of. We can use our select tool, and we want it automatic, and tap on this area outside, and then you want to bring it in. So we're bringing it in away from the edges, so we're not interfering with our nice textured edge, and then just so we've still got this line showing there. Then we can tap on invert, tap on our layers. We're going to add a layer now, and then making sure we've got the right colour selected, we are just going to fill this layer, and that's now filled those inside bits but still left our edges alone. So we can delete the Gaussian blur and merge this one down. So that is how to quickly fill these edges in Procreate. So I'm going to go ahead and do that for these other parts now, for the ice cream cone and these ones. So there we go, there's all those gaps filled in. Let's put our background colour back to something nice, use this purple colour. And let's add some details now. So let's put the details on the ice cream cones. I'm going to add a layer above, clipping mask, and I'm going to do colour dodge 40%, and I'm going to use a 50% grey. There's one here in the palette. You can also get 50% grey by just double tapping in this area. And we'll just, that should have been colour burn, not colour dodge. Let's make this more like 30%, I think. And we're just going to draw over all these lines. Remember, you don't have to stick exactly to the lines. So there is a guide if you want to use them, but you can mix stuff up and add some variation. So there's our lines in. Now we're going to add some shading on. I'm going to add a layer above, clip it, and this one is going to be colour burn 40%, and still with the same grey colour, and I'm going to use the shading crayon here, and I'm going to add a bit of, the brush a bit bigger, add a bit of darkness just to this side of it. So I'm going to imagine the light coming from this side for this illustration, so everything kind of on the underneath on this side will be a bit darker. And there'd probably also be a bit of shadow just underneath where the drippy bit is as well. Next we'll add a bit of highlight, so let's go down to this layer, add one in between, it'll automatically get clipped. Make this colour dodge 40%. And we'll just put a bit of highlight on this side. We're imagining the light coming from there. There we go. Next we'll add some shading to the ice cream cones, so we'll add a layer above this one, clip it down, colour burn 40, and I'm just going to fill this whole layer with there, and that's going to make that layer that little bit darker, but then we'll still add a little bit of shading to that too. So let's clip that one down, make it colour burn 40 as well, and we'll just add a bit of shading to this corner there. And then on the main scoop of ice cream, we'll add a layer above, clip it down, colour burn 40, and we'll just add some shading to the bottom left, sorry, the bottom right of that. And then we'll add another layer in between, make this one colour dodge 40%. And then add a bit of highlight up there where the light would be hitting it. And then on top of these, I'm going to add some sprinkles now. So let's add a layer above, and I'm going to use this sprinkles brush, which you can also find in the Freebie Library on my website. And I'm going to grab orange, and I'm going to make it a bit bigger first. What size do I have? Let's make it 30. And I'm just going to put some of these sprinkles on over the ice cream cones. And then I'm going to go in, and anywhere it's not directly attached to the ice cream cone, I'm just going to erase those. If it's like this one where it's attached, that's okay, I'll leave that one, but any that are sticking off too much, I'm gonna go and erase. Those ones are okay, and I'm gonna add another layer. I'm gonna put each of these colours on separate layers, so I've got the option to change them if I want to. We'll do some pink ones. And then again, just erase any that don't feel like they're in the right place or if sticking off too much. And then one more layer of this bright turquoise colour. There we go. That looks nice and delicious now. So all that we've got left to do is the stars. I'm going to do all of these different colours. So I'm going to put a clipping mask on, and I'm just going to grab this colouring crayon and make it nice and big, and just colour some of these in different colours. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So I kind of want at least 2 of each colour and just try and get them nicely spaced out. And each colour I'm going to put on a separate layer. So as I'm drawing these, I'm kind of imagining, okay, if that's down there, there's going to be a pink one there, so I wouldn't also want that one pink. So what's making me pause and decide where to put these colours. And then we might just do a bit of shading on these, so we can clip this to the whole group, the whole section, and go in with our shading crayon, grey colour, and colour burn 40, and we'll just put a bit of darker colour to the underneath of those, and then use colour dodge to add a little bit of highlight to those. And then all I want to do now is I'm going to group these sprinkles and bring those to the top. I think all I want to do now is add some highlight to the ice cream. but I want that to be underneath the sprinkles. So let's put that there. Grab white by double tapping up here. And with the tracing crayon, I'm just going to go and add a bit of highlight to these ice creams. And I might put some on the stars as well. So that's all our motifs illustrated on our pattern layer. All that we need to do now is just this blob of ice cream. So to do that, we're going to swipe down with 3 fingers and we're going to tap copy all. And we can come up to our extra group, we'll turn that on, and we're going to swipe down again and we're going to paste that in there. Turn the overlay textures on. The reason that's suddenly gone a lot darker is because when we copied all, we copied it with the overlay textures. So now, because we've pasted it in underneath the overlay textures, it's got that like a double strength dose of that, so to speak. So let's turn these top ones off for now. And on this layer here, we're going to duplicate it and drag it over to the left halfway and drag this one over to the right. When you get to this point in the pattern, if you find that your things are not snapping so easily, it's because all of these layers under here, Procreate doesn't just snap to the canvas, it will also snap to other layers on the canvas so that you can center other things. So if you don't want it to be snapping to everything on your canvas, turn that layer off, and then when you move these, you'll find this will snap a lot easier. So I'm just going to go ahead and repeat all of those steps that I did to illustrate these on this one. So now that that's all completed, what we can do is flatten a copy of this extra group to put it back over to the edges in the main pattern. So you can either duplicate this whole extra group, delete these ones we don't want in there, and you can flatten that. If you don't have enough layers to do that, what you could do is either just keep this document as the one with layers, duplicate the whole document, and then have your other one that you flatten in, or you could hide everything else, you could copy all and then paste. But I'm gonna just stick with doing it this way because we haven't used too many layers in this one, so we should be okay. And then we can hide our extra group, and let's put this back in the right place now. So with a brush, I'm going to draw a line going off the edges of both these corners. That's going to allow me to grab that whole canvas now. So let's duplicate this and drag it over to the left so it snaps, and then drag that over to the right so it snaps. Then we can merge those two together. And although we have these motifs flattened and cut apart on the edges, we've still got that layer intact if we wanted to go back and edit anything later. So now we're just going to do the same with our pattern group. So I'm going to hide that label, duplicate that and flatten it, and then bring it up there, and we can turn the layers off now. I'm going to unalpha lock that, and let's draw that mark in those corners, and we can now merge it with the extra layer. So now that is all on one layer, but we've still got our layers below to go back to if we needed to. So now we can use this to fill the rest of the canvas and build out our seamless pattern tile. Then we can merge those 4 layers together on the top. We can erase these marks and then erase them from the bottom layer. And one last thing to do, which is to put our overlay texture back on the top. We've got the background texture still in there, so that's, you can see that with and without, that nice movement and interest that it brings to the background. And then we can put our overlay textures on over the top, and those give that lovely grainy texture to it. So this one is called the Spotty Canvas, and this comes with my Boho Brights Pattern Maker Canvas Volume 2. You can find a link for that in the description. There's also a link for my Freebie Library and newsletter where you can find the stamp brushes and a 10% off code for buying the Pattern Maker Canvas over on my Etsy shop. So this is now finished, and we will now build it out into a little preview here as well. So we're going to swipe down with 3 fingers, copy all, go up to the top and paste, and let's drag this up to halfway and then fill the rest of the canvas with it. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to see more like this every week.